Again, you don't have to like either of these songs or the final creation, but the steps to make a mashup is going to be the same for anything. Let's talk about mashups. Surprisingly, more than music theory, it's kind of just like math and matching up the numbers. And for DJs and producers, they have something called the Camelot wheel that makes it a lot easier to navigate. Sometimes like it's really obvious for some people. And then sometimes like you hear something and you want to make it work and you want to mash it together. The way we're looking at this is obviously if you have two E minor songs together, the chances of them mashing together are pretty easy. If you have a song that's E minor and another one that's B minor, having one distance apart is not so hard. If you have it in D major, you would need to shift it down or shift this one up so they're at least in the same plane. Now, there's like other tricks you can do. There's other crazier formulas like skipping ahead, having a 6-gap difference. We're not going to worry about that too much. The other resources that I use, you don't have to use them, but just sharing with people what I use that are free that's out there. We have Tunebat, and then we have Bandlab. This is my DAW that I use. I just use it in the browser, which is like really convenient. There's a pro version of Bandlab, but the free version, there's no cap on the storage space. I don't know how that gets away. Even Google Drive has a cap on the memory usage. If you've ever tried to dabble with beats, Fruity Loops is one that people think of. Then there's Reason. There's what's the one? GarageBand that's by Apple, you know? Anybody who's ever amateurly recorded stuff, and that's not a diss on their skill, but just like they didn't want to get too involved in it, maybe they've used Audacity. I would still recommend Bandlab over Audacity just because of the features you have. Because like Audacity is really supposed to be just like ever so slightly more fancy, click to record. This is actually for like music production type stuff. And it gives you samples like, maybe if I stick with doing music related content on stream, we'll make a beat, you know, we'll try to remake some of those AI songs that I've shared before. But just for mashups, dude, I think Bandlab is like such a great tool and makes it really, really easy to do. Tunebat is helpful because look at this. Like most of the songs that are out there, and like Tunebat pulls its resources from Spotify. So if it's on Spotify, you're probably going to be able to find the song details on here. So what's great about that is that extends to international music. I know K-pop is like global worldwide now, but I like Tunebat because it'll also show me video game song stuff, anime song stuff. It'll show me Japanese song stuff. Yeah, if you know the key, sure. But the BPM, the beats per minute, is something that we need to know for mixes. And then the Camelot wheel code here. Again, the Camelot aligns with the key, just like if we looked here. 9A is E minor. They're the exact same thing. But so you don't have to memorize all the keys in that way. It's much more easy to reference the number and know whether you got to shift up or shift down from that. What we should talk about is where do you get your instrumentals? For legal sake, say allegedly, these are good resources. For beats, I'm so happy that this is still existing over a decade later. Whenever I was doing mixtapes in Japan and I would be rapping on a track and sending it back to my friend and he'd rap the next verse and like we'd tag team a song in that way, we would always get our beats from Hipstrumentals. And then for gaming soundtracks, KH Insider is like the gold standard. Like if anything, most people probably know this because this is where they went to get Final Fantasy soundtracks or anime soundtracks back in the day. Again, this is another website that I'm so happy that it still exists over 10 years later. Now, another good place to get instrumentals and acapellas is honestly YouTube. How do you download those tracks from YouTube, though? You have to use a third-party site. I definitely want to make sure that people have some sort of pop-up blocker in place, but Get MP3 is the one that I usually use. Sometimes it goes down, but there's always like copycat sister sites that you can use. Keepvid.com was another one. Listen to YouTube was another website before it got taken down. But it's like Hydra, man. every time you cut off one head, another one pops up. Other things that you can do, sometimes you just reach out directly. Will Smith, when he was promoting his song a month and a half ago, he said all you had to do was comment on my post and I will send you the acapella and instrumental for the song. And that's what we're going to do today, because hey, if Will Smith gave me the okay on social media, that should protect me from the DCMA on stream. Maybe not. Maybe I'll be able to get away with it whenever I cut this and put it on YouTube. We're going to be making 2 remixes with Will Smith's Pretty Girls. So I already prepped this in advance, but one feature in Tunebat, so you can always look up the catalog. And if we look up Will Smith Pretty Girls, it's going to give us the information. So that song is D major in 10B 110. Okay. I have the file, and even though it should be the same, sometimes when these tracks get uploaded, there's like a slight shift. Sometimes it's by a few BPM. Sometimes like the key is off by 1. Sometimes like if you're downloading it from YouTube, it could have like a completely different BPM. So this is not concrete foolproof. Like for newer songs, you're probably going to be okay. But it's always helpful that you go to this one key in BPM Finder and you upload. So it'll tell us here. Yeah, this has it as G minor 6A, but 110. So we're going to mix this with a Undernight song, which is the same key, but 150 BPM. So typically, when you have this big of a gap between the BPM, it's not really recommended. And it's going to sound different. One of the things is going to get warped. You have a better chance of warping the instrumental than warping the vocals. Warping the vocals is always going to sound much, much, much more worse. But we have a new project in Bandlab. When you import into Bandlab, sometimes it will auto adjust the BPM, but Bandlab's BPM tracker is different than Tunebat's BPM tracker. So I prefer to keep it all in-house in this way. So if I'm going to be referencing Tunebat's numbers, I want to always be using Tunebat's numbers. So we have our instrumental at 150. So I'm going to go ahead and set this as 150 and then pull in the song. And this is going to be loud. So you can tell from the wave form, this is loud. Let's see how this sounds. This is normal speed of the song. Listen to the first 15, 20 seconds maybe. Will Smith, he's only rapping and singing at 110. So we got to slow this down. So we're going to do this 110. And yes, we want to accept the adjustment. And now when we listen to it, it's going to be noticeably a lot slower. So you hear a little bit of warping, but the beat itself, if we take it from the top, this is a beat that you can clap along to, you can follow along. It's not it doesn't feel like a crazy intense Japanese video game song anymore, or as much, right? Since they're both in the same key, we don't have to make any other adjustments there. But if I did have to, you would right-click the track, you would go to audio stretch. And if it's just 1 or 2, this is how you would adjust it with a semitone. But if we had a bigger jump, and we'll do it with our next example, you would add or subtract how many spaces you would need to skip. So if, let's say, Will Smith's song was, what did we say? His was 6A. Okay, so Will Smith is here. But if I had another instrumental that was up here, 10A to 6A, I got to move it down, right? So I would have to subtract 4 to get it to the exact same key. Now, there's a little bit of a grace period where sometimes you can stop just short the one right over. So if -4 makes the warping sound too bad, you could try to do -3 because that's adjacent enough. You could do some other math like, hey, -2, and I'm going to move Will Smith's vocals +2, so they kind of meet in the middle ground. For a song that has a lot of singing, usually that's not a good idea. If it's a rap song, you're more likely to get away with something like that. But again, we don't have to do any pitch shifting for this because they're both in the same key, so we can exit out of this. But we do got to import Will Smith's vocals. And honestly, so we have all this dead space that I'm just going to cut right here. Honestly, from here on out, if you've ever done any kind of video editing, now it's just kind of like aligning up the puzzle pieces to what sounds good. Where does it come in on the beat? I'm going to mute this real quick, just so we hear Will Smith's Pretty Girls.
I like pretty girls.
Girls, 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 girls.
I love pretty girls.
Girls, 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 girls.
I like pretty girls.
Girls, 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 girls.
Okay, so that's what we're working with. And that's not too loud, at least in my headphones. Where would Will Smith come in here? Oh, like just by default, I think we're pretty close. So let's go ahead and just like hear where this is. And this is how you see what you got to listen for and how you would make the adjustment from it.
I like pretty girls.
Girls, 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 girls.
I love pretty girls.
So to me, he sounds like a little bit slow, I think. So we got to shift it over a little bit.
I like pretty girls.
Girls, 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 girls.
I love pretty girls.
Girls, 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 girls.
I like pretty girls.
Girls, 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 girls.
I love pretty girls.
Girls, 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 girls.
You don't gotta wait in line tonight. You too fine for the line tonight. 5 + 5, you.
Maybe this is part that people don't realize when you're making any kind of mashup or any kind of music production. You got to listen to it a lot. There's a lot of repetition. Doesn't always look super exciting for any kind of supercut that gets put out on YouTube. But I will listen to any kind of thing like over 30 times probably, and listening to it on different headphones and earpieces. One other check you'll want to do is you'll want to turn on the metronome. So you hear that beat, to hear if everything's on beat.
I like pretty girls.
Girls, 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 girls.
I love pretty girls.
Girls, 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 girls.
I like pretty girls.
Girls, 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 girls.
I love pretty girls.
Girls, 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 girls.
You don't gotta wait in line tonight. You're too fine for the line tonight. 5 + 5, you a dime tonight. It's a full house, better play your cards right. I'ma post your pic if you pose. Make one phone call, you in vogue. Head, shoulders, knees, toes. Hold up, wait, pose. I'm about to do some investing. I'll spend it on you and your bestie. You and your twin on a jet ski. I'll change your life if you let me. Pretty girl.
Girls, 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 girls.
Again, you don't have to like either of these songs or the final creation, but the steps to make a mashup is going to be the same for anything. Some things that'll help you with the scrubbing. I'm using the zoom tools, the plus over here. That helps. For some people, turning off this magnet symbol can also help, because what this will do is, you see how like there's these lines on this ruler grid. If you have this on, it'll like automatically snap to those lines. But if this is, you know, different kind of spacing, trying to match that up with the line when you have a gap is going to mess things up. So sometimes you have to turn that off just so you have like free reign of like where you're going to put this thing.
I like pretty. I like pretty girl. I like pretty girl. I like pretty girl.
Girls, 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 girls.
I love pretty girls.
Girls, 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 girls.
You can be as anal as you want to be, but that's what it's all about. Re-listening, fine-tuning, scrubbing in that way. Okay. So I wanted to show this one first because it's not that difficult, because it was the same key, and lining it up, we didn't have to do that much adjusting with it. Like, yeah, I had to kind of scrub it along, figure it out, and I might not be 100% satisfied. I still might need to like move it a little bit to the left or right here. But all in all, this one's not too complicated to mash and put together. Let's look at one that requires just a little bit more finessing. And I just want to show it to people so they don't get discouraged, because if you go in thinking every mashup is going to be lined up this way, I think you're going to rob yourself of making more unique and creative type of mashups. And like, that's what I want to encourage people to do. Because like whenever Will Smith first came out with this song, and he put out that call that, hey, if you just comment, if you retweet, if you share, I'll send you the acapellas and instrumentals. I want to see what you guys can produce together. I felt like people made the laziest kind of mashups. They mashed it up with sexy back, stuff like that. And it didn't sound bad, because again, like the keys, the BPMs of a lot of these pop songs, they all kind of like sync up together. But I take pride and making up the mashups that no one else is going to think of. Like, that's what's most fun to me. Let's look at a different one. So instead of Icefield White Nights instrumental from Under Night in Birth, we're going to be listening to Syndrome by Camelot. This is a now defunct rookie K-pop group from 2013. This one here, 132. So in this version, you see that there's a lot of gaps. Like, this wasn't just scrubbing Will Smith's vocals and setting it and being done with it. I had to do a little bit more Frankensteining to cut and chop and scoot things over so they fit the instrumental of the song, because there's a bigger gap in the keys. But again, they are not the same BPM. This is a smaller gap from 132 to 110. It's not as big as 150 to 110, right? But these songs weren't originally created to be mashed together. Most songs, when they're created, they have no consideration of their mashup potential, right? But for fun, we mashed them together. And this is what the final product sounded like.
I like pretty girls.
Girls, 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 girls.
I love pretty girls.
Girls, 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 girls.
I like pretty girls.
Girls, 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 girls.
I love pretty girls.
Girls, 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 girls.
You don't gotta wait in line tonight. You're too fine for the line tonight. 5 plus 5, you a dime tonight. It's a full house, better play your cards right. I'ma post your pic if you pose. Make one phone call, you involved. Head, shoulders, knees, toes. Hold up, wait, pose. I'm about to do some investing. I'll spend it on you and your bestie. You and your twin on a jet ski. I'll change your life if you let me. Pretty girl. I love pretty girls.
Not perfect. Like, you can always be more anal about it. And I would need to test it with other headphones. But I think it's like pretty much on beat. But you'll see those gaps. And I just want to show from the get-go, how do you create those gaps? How do you scoot that around? So we got to create a new project. Close that out first. I always like to start with the instrumental. So we have Camelot's Syndrome. This is at 132. So that's normal speed, but I forgot. Apologies for your ears and your speakers. We got to turn down this volume. With the key being a 6-key difference here, so D flat minor to G minor. But I know a trick that if it's a 6-gap difference, you don't always have to change it. And with the one that we previewed up here, I didn't change it at all because shifting this down to 110 already warps it quite a bit. So if I wanted to, just so you could see, remember we go to, well, we right click, audio stretch. You could click -1 semitone each time, but you would have to open up the menu each time. So I just go to more. I'm going to take this, I'm going to drag it down. Here's what it sounds like, pitch shifted 6 keys lower. Yeah, so that's why typically with the Camelot wheel, they recommend staying within 3 spaces. Okay, now you can hear why they would recommend that. And then knowing that shortcut of 6, there's like other tricks that you can look up, but those are like the main ones that I apply if I'm doing a mashup. Okay, now we got to import Will Smith's vocals. And I'm just cutting this white gap space right there. So let's mute and let's think about where will we want Will Smith to come in. So I think it works better if Will Smith is speaking and then the beat comes in. I like pretty, dun, dun, dun.
I like pretty girl.
You get what I'm saying? I like pretty, dun, dun, dun.
I like pretty girl.
Girls, 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 girls.
I love pretty girl.
Girls, 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 girls.
I like pretty girl.
Girls, 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 girls.
I love pretty girl.
Girls, 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 girls.
You don't gotta wait in line.
So you'll notice, I think, like, if we play this intro again, I think this first hit is perfect, but then it's like, oh, he goes on beat, off beat. And if like you let it sit like that, you say, oh, this mashup doesn't work. And maybe ultimately it doesn't. Maybe for some people it's better to cut their losses early on so they don't stress out over it. But if you're obsessed, if you're dead set on trying to make something crazy work and having fun with it, or just trying to give it a shot, spend 30 minutes tinkering around with it, that's when you need to chop it up a little bit. So again, we listen to this first part.
I like pretty girl.
Girls, 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 girls.
I love pretty.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here and then I need to right click this and we're going to slice it. So we made that line and we might need to shorten this so we could scoot it over.
I like pretty girl.
Girls, 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 girls.
I love.
Just a smidge.
I like pretty girl.
Girls, 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 girls.
I love pretty girl.
Girls, 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 girls.
I like.
Yeah. And again, it's just like a smidge behind each time.
Girls, girls, girls.
I like.
Nope, too fast.
Girls, girls, girls.
I like pretty girl.
Girls, 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 girls.
I love pretty girl.
Girls, 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 girls.
You don't gotta.
It doesn't always play out super linearly that way also. Like, I know that I'm probably going to have to cut this, but it's fine to like skip ahead. Like, because the more you listen to it, you'll catch those faults in previous sections. But I know that for now, I want to make sure that this part of the verse is better corrected.
You don't gotta wait in line. line tonight. You too fine for the. You don't gotta wait. You don't gotta wait in line tonight. You too fine for the.
So sometimes he's too early, sometimes he's too late. And we're just chopping this so we can move those pieces.
Line tonight. You too fine for the line tonight. 5 plus 5, you a dime tonight. For the line tonight. 5 plus.
Yeah, I think we need to scoot this up.
For the line tonight. 5 plus. For the line tonight. 5 plus 5. For the line tonight. 5 plus 5, you a dime tonight. It's a full house, better play your cards right. I'm a post. For the line tonight. 5 plus 5, you a dime tonight. It's a full house, better play your cards right. I'ma post your pick if you pose. Make one phone call.
So, a little too late. Too early. Too late.
Post your pick if you pose. Make one phone call, you involved. Head, shoulders, knees, toes. Hold up, wait, hold. I'm about to do some investing. Wait, hold. I'm about to.
Too early.
Wait, hold. I'm about to. Wait, hold. I'm about to do some investing. I'll spend it on you and your bestie. You and your twin on a jet ski. I'll change your life if you let me. Girl.
So we're not going to do the full song, but just showing you on like what you got to listen for, how you make those adjustments. We're going to turn on the metronome and we're going to try to catch that one spot that we skipped over earlier.
I like pretty girls.
Girls, 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 girls.
I love pretty girls.
Girls, 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 girls.
I like pretty girls.
Girls, 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 girls.
I love pretty girls.
Girls, 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 girls.
You don't gotta wait in line tonight. You too fine for the line tonight. 5 plus 5, you a dime tonight. It's a full house, better play your cards right. I'ma post your pick if you pose. Make one phone call, you involved. Head, shoulders, knees, toes. Hold up, wait, hold. I'm about to do some investing. I'll spend it on you and your bestie. You and your twin on a jet ski. I'll change your life if you let.
I think I zoned out and missed it, but that's the gist of it. So some projects are going to take a lot more finessing. There's plenty of mashups that I haven't released and like they're chopped up like crazy. And then sometimes the unexpected happens. Like you hear something in your head and you wonder and like you check it on Tunebat and like the math adds up and it works. And some of those mashups didn't take that much effort at all. I want to put this out there into the ether to encourage other people to tinker and experiment. Like you don't have to be good at music. You don't have to be super skilled and talented, all this stuff. It's like really the math alignment and how OCD you want to be at re-listening and lining these things up. And I just hope that people keep trying to mash up off the wall stuff, try to make stuff that doesn't fit together, try to make it work.